All right, my name is Susan Page, and I'm here today for the Senior Lawyers Division Oral History Project, and I'm interviewing Elaine Moore. Elaine, tell us just a little bit about your background. How'd you become a lawyer?
When I was a child in Southern California, the only thing that girls could look forward to being was a secretary or a nurse, or of course a housewife. And so I never even thought about it until I had gone to Europe, kicked around for 10 years, and came back to reality.
And was there anything about your early life that sort of influenced you to get involved in the law, or the particular area of the law that you got involved in?
How early in my life?
I don't know, the time when you were going to Europe, whenever.
Well, when I was, I suppose. I went to the Oktoberfest in Germany and was raped by a Middle Eastern man. And I thought, there is nothing I can do. I'm here thousands of miles from home. Nobody's going to pay any attention to me, and they think all American females are sluts anyway. And so I just had to suck it up and do something. But that thought that was in my mind, that there was nothing I could do, that was probably the beginning of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So
I had gone to college for 3 years in California right out of high school, and then the 60s hit, the mid 60s, and all hell was breaking loose in Southern all over New York and California too. Watts riots and the yippies in New York. And I thought, I've never been anywhere else. I've never lived anywhere else. So why are they complaining when they've all grown up just like me in La La Land, you know? So that's why I went over there. Stayed about a year, kicked around.
You say kicked around, like where all?
Waitressing. Well, I traveled around a little. But I spent most of my time in Scotland, the Highlands of Scotland, in a hotel. I worked there, and then I went down to Spain and attended a bar near an American naval base. Mm-hmm.
And
Law was not on my mind then. No.
So what were you studying when you were studying undergraduate?
English. That's what made me crazy when I was a lawyer, is that so many of them got out of law school and couldn't even write a freaking sentence, you know.
Yep.
Still can't.
Mm-hmm.
Can't even talk right.
All right, so then as you got out of Europe, what actually inspired you to go to law school? Must have had to finish up your undergraduate degree.
When I came back, I went back to Southern California. I met a guy that was, I forget what they call him, worked on the offshore oil rigs, and he got me out of California, and I appreciated that. But we were married and divorced in Oklahoma, and I knew I couldn't go back to Southern California, so that's when I came to New Mexico. And I was in I was taking court reporting in a really bad startup school, and I realized at that time that I couldn't sit there and watch somebody else do this and not say something. I just don't have the ability to be quiet at times. So I thought, and I worked for, I went to work in the DA's office. I was typing depositions for a court reporting firm, and some people just across the hall from me, I got friendly with them, and they said they worked in the DA's office. They were the pre-prosecution probation people. They said, you should come and work in the DA's office. We know some people. And so...
That's
So-
New Mexico for you.
yeah.
You gotta know some people.
Yeah, you gotta know some people. Jim Brandenburg was the DA at the time. And just looking at him was enough to make me want to work there. 'Cause
He was
he
a
was
baby.
a good-looking man, yeah. And so I went to work there as a secretary, and I worked mostly in property crimes, I think. I worked with Jim Blackmer and Joanne Carver. And then while I was there, Steve Schiff I worked in property and narcotics, and Steve Schiff was the head of property and narcotics at that time. And then between Joanne Carver and Jim Blackmer, they said, why are you a secretary? I said, because I have to pay rent,
Yeah.
have to eat, need to keep my car working. And they said, you should go to law school. And at that time, I still needed a year or so of undergraduate work. And I went to UNM then, and I hoped to get into UNM, but I didn't. Into
law
UNM
school.
law school, yeah.
Yeah. What'd you get your degree in at UNM?
English,
Finished up in English?
English, and some journalism. I probably should have gone into journalism.
You'd have been good at it. And what, and so you did that while you were working full-time? Went
What?
back to UNM?
No, I quit the DA's office, and that's, I think, when I went back to Jack's as a
okay.
waitress. And I mean, I'd spent a lot of time and money in Jack's, so I thought, maybe I should just work here, and I get my booze free, you know.
There you go.
So I did that. I worked there while I was going to UNM, because I still had to support myself.
Is that about the time this picture was taken?
Yeah.
All right, can you show that picture?
You want me to?
I think Monica's got it
You
here.
got it there?
Yeah.
Okay.
You used,
That's
used
for,
to have that picture in your office, didn't you? The DA's
I think
office.
I did, yeah.
Yeah. So tell us about that picture.
Well, that was a Friday night, closing time, just after closing time. That's why nobody is hanging all over me there at the waitress station at Jack's bar. So I was, well, the look on my face says it all. Like, don't mess with me, just don't mess with me.
Now, where was Jack's? What is it now?
On Central Avenue, about 3 blocks west of UNM. University there. Yeah, it was a landmark place. I have one friend from there that's still alive. He lives in Durango, outside of Durango, and we talk about it all the time. I mean, it was an institution.
Mm-hmm.
Jack's was. And if you hadn't been there, you don't know any of the names, but it was like no place else I've ever been. And I've been a lot of places.
All right, so you say you didn't get into UNM Law School?
I did not, no.
And so what did you do then?
Well, I got in, the only place I did get in was the University of San Diego. And I was one of those last people on the list that they called. And they said, can you be here in a week? So I did. I packed everything and gave everything away and just went to San Diego. Found a place that was built in 1894 on the edge of downtown San Diego, with a balcony along the west side. So I got some nice sunsets, and I lived there and supported myself through law school. It's a private university and Catholic, but it didn't matter. They didn't discriminate against people like me.
And so what'd you do to support yourself through law school?
Oddly enough, I didn't do any waitress work when I was in San Diego. I did work for just a general practitioner lawyer for a while, His name was Mike McGlynn, and but for the most part, I think my parents loaned me money to live on, and I eventually paid it back. But for that time, it was high tuition. But I lived on $900 a month, top to bottom. You know, still had my Volkswagen and walked downtown. I had my bicycle. I rode along the bay there.
Now, were you from San Diego or some other part of Southern California?
No, I was from the LA area, Los
Oh, okay.
Angeles. Yeah,
All right.
yeah.
So tell me something about law school. I mean, I'll take you through it semester by semester. That would be too horrible for anybody. But, you know, highlights, lowlights.
I did not like law school. I was not one of those people that loved the law,
Good.
and I still don't.
I know we liked each other for a reason. Yeah.
I still don't. I think it's just kind of a Venus flytrap. Do you want me to just put those dogs out? No. Okay.
Just for the videotape, we're in Elaine's home, and so she can have all the dogs she wants.
What was I talking about?
Law school as a Venus flytrap, or the law as a Venus flytrap.
It's kind of a closed society. It's kind of cloistered for many people, and I didn't want it to do that to me, so I didn't let it. I maintained my free spirit, I guess, on certain levels.
All right.
But I didn't know where in the world I might get a job once I got out. I had to take the bar twice.
Here in New Mexico?
Yeah, I didn't want to stay in. I knew I didn't want to stay in Southern California anymore, and so I came back here, lived on the east side of the mountains, and took the bar twice while working, you know, temporary jobs and stuff like that.
Because you enjoyed it so much the first time? That's what I always say. I had to take it twice. So, yeah.
No, not because I enjoyed it. And I decided that if I didn't pass the second time, I was going to go to truck driving school.
There you go.
And I probably would have been a better truck driver than I was a lawyer.
Never know. So how many women were in your class, roughly?
Probably about a third of them, yeah.
And what year did you graduate from law school?
December of 1982.
Oh,
And it was funny because in one of my classes, I heard a name that was very unusual. And it was the child of a guy that I had worked for in Long Beach back in the day as a secretary at an insurance company. And here was this kid in my contracts class or something. And I looked at him, and he looked at me with a great deal of disgust, and I'm not quite sure. I never did get to talk to him. I don't know why he had that look of disgust on his face when he looked at me. Oh well, whatever.
kind of sticks with you though, doesn't it?
It does, yeah.
All right, so while you were in school, you just said you really didn't have a particular plan didn't have any idea what you'd do with that degree.
Yeah, I really did. I always wanted to prosecute because of my experience in Germany. And one time after I got married and divorced, like I said, in Oklahoma, and when I divorced, I got involved in a theater group, and I played a female prosecutor. And I had a long pink scarf that I would throw over my shoulder. And I thought, that's the one for me. Off. Dogs. Sorry.
All right, so where did you actually begin your legal practice once you passed the bar?
I went and begged Steve Schiff for a job. And he was kind. And he knew that I wouldn't get through the interview process that they had in the DA's office at that time. He knew, and the people that were there. Bob Schwartz was the chief deputy.
Oh, this is when Steve was DA, okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Steve was the DA then. And he knew I wouldn't get through the process. It was, lawyers are kind of prima donnas. They really think that they are something special. Even in the DA's office, they did it. And he knew I wouldn't get through that, and he called me that night at home, Steve did, and said, I'm not going to put you through that. He said, you were a really good secretary and a hard worker, and I'm just going to hire you. So I said, good deal, thank you.
All right, so where did you go when you got into the DA's office?
Metro Court, like everybody
Just
else.
those, yeah.
And they were in that new nightmare of a building at whatever it was, 4th and Tijeras or something, I don't know. And it was, unusual. You know, that's when you learn the law. That's when you figure out how it works. It's when it's your first job and you say, a complaint, what's that? You know, arrest, what's that? And you finally start putting it together. And I remember one of my law professors, I think it was my contracts professor, said, there are a lot of you who are not going to be able to process any of this and put it all together to figure out what you're supposed to do as a lawyer until you're working in it and doing it. And that's what happened to me. That's when it came together. Yeah.
All right, and from there, how did your career evolve?
I just stuck with it. I didn't think of it as a career. I thought of it as a means to an end. I was able to have my own life on the outside. We moved out here in the country while I worked in the DA's office, and
that's where are we at? Los Lunas?
Tomei area,
Yeah.
yeah. And I was able to have a life. We did a lot of fishing and hunting, and we had horses, and still do. My daughter does. And we did FFA and 4-H and all that stuff, and it was an interesting job, and you meet interesting people, and you can't believe that there are people that do the things that they do to other people when you're working in the DA's office. It's just mind-boggling, but I enjoyed the work on a certain level and was able to keep it together to retire from there. You know, I worked there 22 years pretty much, except for a year or two stint in the AG's office. Am I talking too much?
No, you're doing great.
Okay.
You're doing great. You know, I know how to shut people up if you are talking too much. So
I was in the AG's office just for a couple of years doing Medicaid fraud.
And how was that?
Boring as hell.
Mm-hmm.
And then the person that took me away from the DA's office then fired me. And so I went back to the DA's office. I said, I'll show you.
Yeah.
I'll start over in the DA's office in Metro Court. So that's what I did. But I only had a few years till retirement.
Yeah.
Till I could retire.
So you didn't spend the whole time in Metro Court.
No. I forget what. I went to Probation Violations. I think I worked with you over there. Weren't you in charge of that at that time?
Yeah.
And I did a lot of screening also of. I did probation violations for a while. There were this many files I'd have to carry over to court.
Yeah.
That was torture. and then they had me doing a lot of screening.
Yeah.
So I enjoyed that.
Because of your experience, you could.
Yeah, and make the decisions as to whether to prosecute something or not.
Yeah. And before that, before you went over to the AG's office, you didn't stay in Metro that whole time.
No,
You had gone to property and narcotics.
I was there until, I was in every division except child abuse, and I knew I couldn't do that. I just knew I couldn't do
Even violent crimes, I'd kind of forgotten that.
Mhm. I was only in violent crimes a year or so, and I think the only picture I have of myself was looking down at a person on a dead body on a gurney that was being brought out of a house with a French chef's knife sticking
Ooh.
out of his throat. Mm-hmm.
Now, when you say a picture, you don't have a photograph of that. You said
Yeah, it was in the
your
paper.
mind.
It was
Oh,
in the
man.
paper. Yeah. And I'm standing there looking at this guy, and you could just see the quizzical, my body language was, how in the world does that happen?
Yeah.
And he had something wrapped around his neck, so it was a sex thing gone bad. That's what Charlie Brown told me.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
This Charlie Brown is a judge now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And he went out there. I was not long in violent crimes at that time, and I went out with him, and he said, "Don't let it bother you, Elaine. It's just evidence. It's just evidence." I said, "Okay." Guess so.
And I think I forgot to ask you, since I'm talking about photographs, this photograph was taken by somebody fairly prominent, wasn't it?
Well, his name is Miguel Gander. He made his living. He was a photographer for one of the TV stations, I think. And he's the brother of Joe Gander, who I worked with in children's court quite a while. He was a defense attorney. Defense attorneys liked me.
Uh-huh.
I wasn't an unreasonable person. I wasn't a string them all up kind of DA.
All right, so you retired.
I did.
Now, I just wanted to ask you about something that happened. You said something about living down here in Tomei. So I wanted to ask you what happened. There was the time when you found your family, your property here, targeted by law enforcement.
There were 5 different law enforcement agents of varying kinds down here at my house. I wasn't here. I was in Arizona visiting friends, and they kicked in the front door. The trash man we didn't have trash service down here. You had to hire somebody, and the trash man saw some basil hanging in my window drying in that outbuilding out there, and he was sure it was marijuana, and so they got it was a great crop of basil too, and they got a warrant and said my whole place was surrounded by barbed wire, BOBWIRE, and they got a warrant and kicked in my door and went in my bedroom, and the cops always maintained, we didn't toss that place. We didn't toss her house. Well, yes, they did. And anyway, there was a DEA, there was a sheriff, there was ATF, all kinds of people. And so we sued the sheriff and got him unelected in the next election. Made a little bit of money, not much.
Yeah.
Paid off a tractor.
But really, you're laughing now, but that's not how it felt then, was it?
I know, it felt, yeah, I was outraged. And I called Bob Schwartz, was the DA then, and my husband didn't tell me until I got back from my trip. And so I called Bob Schwartz that night and said, do you mind if I sue this guy? And he said, no, have a good time. And he said, did you have marijuana? And I said, hell no. Think I'm stupid? No. But, I mean, those were different days. This was in 1992. So, I mean, everybody was smoking pot and snorting cocaine in those days. And a lot of lawyers, most of the lawyers I knew, all the defense bar was, not the public defenders, of course, but the private bar, they were a bunch of crazy guys. And but no, I wasn't one of those people.
And you said something about your husband, so this must be the new husband, not the guy you divorced.
Yeah,
Blah,
yeah,
blah, blah.
no.
So tell me about him.
Well, he worked at the VA. He was not a lawyer. He was a sportsman. He was a great fisherman and a great hunter, and thought he was a good horseback rider. Wasn't that good? But we did. We took horses up on the mesa here and rode. It was a lot of fun. And I introduced my daughter. We got her first horse when she was about 6, and I wish I'd never done that. But she still has horses. She just lives a couple miles from me. She wants me to let her move back in here, and I said, no way.
How old is she?
36.
And your husband, what did he do at the VA?
When he retired, he was he was the administrator of the what do you call it? Research department over there.
And how did you meet him?
He was the best friend of a good friend of mine's husband. So, and he walked in their house one time when I was visiting, and he had good legs.
Mm-hmm.
That was about it. Yeah. The rest is history.
So anything else about your not career as a lawyer you want to share, or like how things have changed over the time you were a lawyer?
We used to dress for court when I started in the DA's office. I missed those days. It ruined my feet wearing those high heels, but I liked the formality of it. And then people started wearing, sandals and pants to court. I don't know. Just didn't seem right, but I don't even know how it is these days.
Yeah. All right, is there any, got 2 last questions for you.
Do I have them on my cheat sheet?
You should have, yes. No, I'm not gonna just come up with surprise things.
Okay.
All right. Are there any words of wisdom you'd want to give to young lawyers?
Negotiate, don't fight. Negotiation, whether it's civil law or criminal law or anything in between, you can meet in the middle. You can find common ground. I don't care how awful the crime was or how horrible the divorce was. You can find common ground. You can find a way to meet in the middle. I never liked people that dug in their heels and wouldn't move, and it just became unpleasant. Life is too short to be unpleasant.
And any other aspects of your life you'd like to share with us?
No, I think everybody should be a waitress at some time in their life, though. I really do. It teaches you how to get along with people, and if you can't get along with them, and if they don't keep their hands to themselves, you just accidentally spill a tray of drinks on them. Takes care of that real fast. Oh, howdy. Yeah, that's all. Negotiate. Talk it out.
And if that doesn't work, spill the drinks on them. All right.
Or throw the glass at them.
That's if they're really bad.
Yeah.
All right, well, thank you. We've been here with Elaine Moore in her beautiful home.